Every week on Bullseye, we bring you a culture tip from me. It's a segment called The Outshot. So there is a kind of comedy that I call fancy comedy. It's the kind of comedy fancy people admit that they like. It gets written up in the New Yorker and you hear about it on NPR. Sometimes it's about politics. Maybe it's sad instead of funny. Usually when they talk about it, the fancy people, they call it satire, whether or not it actually is satire. Satire is another word for fancy comedy. Now, I will admit, I am talking to you on NPR right this moment. I am a little fancy. I like fancy comedy. But I also like Police Squad.
I'm telling you, you got nothing on me. You're wasting your time.
All right, Eddie, let's go over it again. Where were you last night?
I told you a dozen times I was at the movies.
I've got the sandwiches here.
All right, Eddie, you went to the movies. Now, what did you see?
I told you, I don't remember.
Who had the egg salad?
I don't remember.
Hey, somebody ordered it.
You can't expect us to buy that.
But I already paid for it.
Why don't you give a guy a break?
Thanks a lot.
What's the charge, huh?
$4.58.
What are you trying to do, insult us?
Okay, $3.50. Coffee's on me.
Maybe you saw the Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen. Police Squad was the show that inspired them. It ran for 6 episodes on ABC in the spring of 1982. Or actually, that's not true. ABC ordered 6 episodes, they ran 4, and then they canceled it. Police Squad has a simple setup. It's a parody of a police procedural. At the time, that was like Dragnet, Felony Squad, that sort of thing. In 1982, Hill Street Blues had been on TV for 1 year. NYPD Blue was years away, and that's to say nothing of the really sophisticated cop shows, Homicide or The Shield or The Wire. The police procedural was still all about moving from station to station. A guest star, a crime, an investigation, an interrogation, a solution, wash, rinse, repeat. The creators of Police Squad, Zucker, Abrams, Zucker, the guys who made Airplane, didn't change anything about the genre. They kept all of it. The self-serious tone, the brutal murders, the back projection shots of policemen driving squad cars to crime scenes, cups of coffee and bare bulb interrogation lamps and big metal tanker desks. They just took all that stuff and added 12,000 jokes.
My name is Sergeant Frank Drebin, Detective Lieutenant Police Squad, a special detail of the police department. There'd been a recent wave of gorgeous fashion models found naked and unconscious in laundromats in the West Side. Unfortunately, I was assigned to investigate holdups at neighborhood credit unions. I was across town doing my laundry when I heard the call on the double killing. It took me 20 minutes to get there. My boss was already on the scene.
In a procedural, everything, every line of dialogue, everything that happens on screen is exposition. In Police Squad, there is all that, but there is also not a single moment without jokes.
The gunman shot the teller, she grabbed the gun and shot the hold-up man.
It's the same MO as the others.
It could be, but this one has an interesting wrinkle. The gunman twice was a good family man with no prior record.
Did I talk to her?
Sure.
Like here, they're just crossing to the crime scene. It's a travel moment. But we can see right behind them a body bag being carried out through the open door of the bank. And the body bag and the stretcher are getting longer and longer and longer and longer, never ending, like a magician's scarf coming out of his pocket. And then they cross past that, and inside, there's one of those chalk outlines of the victim on the ground. And then next to it, there is a chalk outline of an Egyptian hieroglyph. And then we see the crime scene photographer shooting a picture of the dead body. Of course, there is a cop smiling ear to ear with his arm around it, posing. And then this nonsense happens.
This is Sally Decker, Frank.
Hello, Miss Decker.
Hello.
I'm Captain Frank Drebin. I understand you've had a pretty rough time.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Cigarette?
Yes, I know.
Well, do you feel up to any questions?
I'll try.
Where were you when all this happened?
I was right here at my desk working.
And when was the first time you noticed something was wrong?
Well, when I first heard the shot, and as I turned, Jim fell.
He's the teller, Frank.
But Jim Fell's the teller?
No, Jim Johnson.
Who's Jim Fell?
Well, he's the auditor, Frank.
He had the flu, so Jim filled in.
Phil who?
Phil Din. He's the night watchman, Frank.
If only Phil had been here.
The flood of jokes rolls like a mighty river over and around Leslie Nielsen and his co-conspirators on Police Squad, and it is impossible for a viewer not to be swept up by the current. The boss of ABC at the time said that he canceled the show because, and I swear this is an actual direct quote, he said he canceled it because the viewer would have to watch it in order to appreciate it. I guess he meant like watch it closely. But the same qualities that made it a bad fit to run alongside Three's Company or Happy Days are the ones that make it as funny now as it was then. I mean, how can you resist every episode a visit from the all-knowing Johnny the Stool Pigeon, shining shoes in a shoeshine stand, and giving out the secrets of the underworld?
Do you know anything about the double killings at the Acme Credit Union?
You're barking up the wrong tree with this Ralph twice. He's a good family man and makes a decent living. Wasn't his fault he got fired from the tire company. But who could predict that Brazil would cut off the rubber supply? They're nationalizing the industry in 2 weeks, so he would have gotten his job back anyway.
Particularly when a priest sits down.
What do you know about life after death?
I wouldn't know anything about it. You talking existential being or anthropomorphic deity?
I mean, maybe ABC was right. Maybe people in 1982 couldn't handle it. Maybe they wanted the familiar rhythms of Taxi or the goofy mix-ups on Three's Company or the heartwarming moments on Heart to Heart. But it's been 35 years since Police Squad aired, and it's only gotten better with age. There's no Simpsons, no 30 Rock, no Veep without Police Squad coming first. It's a testament to the power of unfancy comedy.
All right, Sally. You're under arrest. Sergeant, take her away and book her.
Sergeant, take her away. Sergeant Booker.
That's my outshot.